Hello everybody. How are you doing today? Hope you're having a good day. I know some of you have been struggling with some pretty nasty weather, but don't worry. Just a few more months and you'll be complaining about the heat. So, uh, like I say, you're going to complain about the weather no matter how nice it is or how bad it is. But anyway, you're privileged to wake up this morning. God gives you another chance to do something for Him. This is a day you need to thank God for. And hopefully you can learn more things about God today than you did yesterday. All right, the title of the lesson, it might be strange, is called Stupid People Everywhere. Now, let's start off by saying, do you know any stupid people? Well, you do because you're surrounded by them. And let us explain why. See, our world is filled with stupid people. People that have no earthly idea what is going on yet think that they do. And people who just do what someone tells them to do without investigating for themselves, and they just repeat what they've heard somebody say, and they have no idea what they're talking about. So, have you ever watched those interviews when college kids are asked simple questions about our nation's history? I remember when political science majors could not even answer who their senators were or what the senator's job was. And we're talking college kids. I'm not talking first and second graders. I'm talking college kids. Should know this stuff. And we've watched for years the various interviews and answers to some very simple questions on the television. And questions are asked that you think everybody knows the answer to that. Like, who was the first president of the United States? Well, you'd think everybody would know, but no. I mean, they don't. And it comes out that way. Who fought in the Civil War? And you get answers like Germany and Japan and stuff like that. And so, I mean, the answers are so stupid that sometimes they're literally funny the way it comes out, and it's sad at the same time. Yes, we get a laugh out of the answers, but it's really sad that people are so stupid, and the problem is they really do not care that they are that stupid. And I think our society encourages this type of behavior. Uh, so that's real sad in itself. Thinking that the S word, the stupid, does not belong in our vocabulary. I know a lot of parents, they teach their children, no, don't say that word. And of course, that gets back to, well, if you can't say something nice about somebody, don't say anything at all. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it should be. But some people do some really dumb stuff, and really, they bring it upon themselves to be given that title of being stupid. And even smart, intelligent people can do stupid things. See, many years ago, the word stupid was primarily applied to a person with a mental deficiency. I mean, we call them retarded, or we now call them special needs, but still, I mean, that's what the word originally was used on. And then it migrated into the point where these days the word is not reserved for these kind of people, but is more of an insult towards people who do dumb things all the time. And they do dumb things like they stick their hand or another body part where it does not belong. They do not think before they act and talk. And they put themselves in danger by driving without paying attention to what is around them. I mean, some of them text while driving. And even though more and more accidents occur because of texting, people continue to do it. And some have literally lost their heads over such things. You know, we probably all remember the picture of this little car that was on the internet run under the back end of a semi-trailer, and it was reported the driver's head was in the back seat and the phone with the text message was still in his hand in the front seat. And so drinking and driving, we also know, is stupid. But many people continue to put lives in jeopardy because they do not want to control themselves. And television networks make money off these people. You know, shows like The World's Dumbest Criminals and Bait Car, things like that. And there's other reality shows where people do dumb things for money. I mean, several years ago, there was a show called The Repo Game. Some of you might remember that. The premise was that people who can answer 3 of 5 trivia questions could keep their car and not get it towed off. And it is very entertaining how that show exploits people. But they asked just the simplest questions that really everybody should know, but these people didn't know it, and they really didn't care that they didn't know it. Some say the definition of insanity is to do the same things over and over and to expect different results. Well, when you think about it, that is also stupidity at work. And our country is experiencing people who want to go into a system that has failed every single time, and yet they still want to promote it. I mean, that's stupidity. Now, the question is, how did people get to be so stupid? Well, obviously some of them started out that way and never really sought to improve themselves. I mean, they could, and some very intelligent people do dumb things that are really stupid. But the main reason is the fact that they just do not care to learn anything of importance. Now, in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 1, in the New King James Version, it says, "Whoever loves instruction loves knowledge, but he who hates correction is stupid." I mean, there it is, point blank. That's what it says. See, I'm sure that you can find many bosses that would agree with this statement. I mean, employees reject being taught how to do the job correctly and then cannot figure out why they got fired from their jobs. And so, if you think this is a stupid discussion, well, let's turn it to spiritual matters. Some of you might be embarrassed if you were asked simple Bible questions. And I know this is the case because I've seen it. I see it firsthand. People who are supposedly well founded upon the Bible cannot even answer simple Bible questions. And Christians are supposed to be filled with the knowledge of His will. You know, that's what Paul prayed for the Colossians in chapter 1 and verse 9. And while we may not know everything about the Bible, and some of us, we acknowledge that, yeah, we don't know everything about the Bible, we should at least be knowing some things about God and His dealings with mankind. What is important? And at the very least, every Christian needs to know the plan of salvation to be able to share it with others and help others get to heaven. But really, you can go into a congregation and ask people who've been in the church for 20, 30, 40 years, what is God's plan of salvation? And they just give you that blank stare. That little, I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, and that's really sad. So they should at least be able to know that and teach others. I mean, how could they become a Christian if they didn't learn it? So just go around and see how much Bible knowledge there is in our society. I mean, there's very little. And we see questions like this all the time, and the answers people give is really amazing sometimes. And so when people have such little knowledge about the Bible, this world should cause us concern, and we should be afraid of this world. This world is not trying to help anybody get to heaven, and we should be aware of that. And I'm afraid that many in our churches are just as dumb when it comes to the Bible. And some of you, especially preachers, you can probably say, okay, yeah, you're right. See, I remember years ago when members of the Church of Christ had a reputation for having great Bible knowledge. And most of the community acknowledged that the Church of Christ was closer to the biblical church than any other group. I mean, this was years ago. But see, we don't hear that any longer about the Church of Christ. And it should be embarrassing that you do not know how to answer simple Bible questions. But it does not seem to bother many who sit in the pews. And I think that's really sad. It's like they have no drive or ambition to learn these things. You know, Jesus said to strive to enter that narrow gate. Strive. I mean, that means to put forth an effort. We're to be diligent in our efforts. We're supposed to be diligent in the things we add to our faith. And yet, most people don't even try. I mean, the way they behave, it's like the only time they ever open their Bibles, maybe, is when the preacher is preaching. Other than that, they don't even crack the book open at any time during the rest of the week. And so it just appears that way. All right, we also know that once a people remove moral standards from a society, it collapses and deteriorates rapidly. We see that going on now. We've been watching killings and rapes and theft and cheating and corruption and things take place, people breaking the law, and leaders, the government leaders, letting them break the law. And you just have to question these things. And these people do it because they've determined that there's no consequences to breaking the law. I mean, that's what they're teaching us. They're letting us know that if you break the law, no biggie, no big deal, nothing to see here, just move on, and nobody's held accountable anymore. But it seems like the only people they want to hold accountable are those who might be speaking God's word and teaching the truth. See, God has tried to correct human behavior through his word. He gave us his word for a reason, hoping that we would be saved and hoping that we would teach others how to be saved. And those people who actually study the word, they've actually improved their lives. They're much better citizens. They're much better friends and neighbors. They're much better qualified to basically make those improvements. But those that reject God's word have proven just how stupid they are. I mean, they're not helping themselves get to heaven. And there will not be any stupid people entering heaven at the judgment day. I can tell you that right now. Nobody's going to get in by accident. The fool will not wander on it. Remember in Isaiah chapter 30, verse 8, when he talked about the highway of holiness, fools will not stumble upon it. And fool is another word we could use, a synonym for stupid. I mean, they're not going to be there. So we are commanded to study to show ourselves approved to God. It's like Timothy 2:15. And so we must study God's word. We must know God's word. We must live God's word. And we must share God's word. Look at the example in Ezra. Ezra chapter 7 and verse 10 says that Ezra purposed in his heart to learn the law of the Lord so that he could do it and that he could teach its statutes in Israel. And so, yeah, we have to make up our minds we're going to learn God's law. But, I mean, think about that. I mean, this is such an important message here. We just want to let people know that, you know, we got to know God's word. We've got to do it. We've got to live it. And as James said, be doers of the word and not hearers only. And it seems like those who are just hearers only, they really do not have much Bible understanding or Bible knowledge. And chances are they wouldn't know error if the preacher started teaching it. And they wouldn't know it. They just go along with it. And that's a real sad state of affairs. Folks, if you're a member of the Church of Christ, learn and then teach others. I mean, that's really the only way we're going to help people get to heaven is by teaching them God's word. So think about this. Yeah, some people don't like to be called stupid, but God says he who rejects knowledge is stupid. And so consider those things. That's our lesson for today. Do something for God. Make the effort and try and help someone get to heaven today. And whoever that might be, you meet somebody at the grocery store, just mention something about God, how it's a wonderful day God has made, and we're still alive, so we can thank God for the blessings that he offers. But the greatest blessings are still yet to come. So consider those things. That's our lesson. Lord willing, be back again tomorrow with another lesson. Bye-bye for now.